Welcome back to the Indy Sooner. It's your boy JP, and this is separate from the JP and Trav show. This is just kind of a late night live stream that I want to do with one of my buddies who I've been kind of cool with on Twitter for a long time, and finally able to get him on the channel. The homie Blake. Blake, how you doing, man?
I'm good. What's going on, man?
I'm good, man. Just living life and just trying to enjoy hopefully a good Martin Luther King Jr. Day tomorrow. I'm
Uh, yep.
kind of off of work. I'm an athletic director, so I don't really have off days, unfortunately.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, we still got a game tomorrow night. So I have to kind of go through that stuff or whatnot. But for the
Right.
most part, I'll be kind of free. So
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah, man, for sure. How's your day been?
Man, I've just been watching football all day, man. It's just been one of those weekends where college football is kind of done. And so, takes you right into the NFL playoffs. And so this is like the last football that we have for quite a while. So you're just trying to soak it all in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it generally hasn't been that great at football.
No, no, it hasn't. I mean the game last night I didn't even really watch. And then the Steelers game now, like I turned it off after the second quarter. I was like, there's no point watching this game. We all know how the outcome's going to be. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully games will be better. Hopefully, yeah, the Cardinal Rams prediction that Kirby's talking about in the chat will be better.
I
So
hope so.
hope so for sure. So for the five of you that are in here, and if we get more, great. If not, again, this will be available just on the Indie Sooner page throughout the week. Um, we just want to come on here quickly and just kind of talk about some fantasy football, some NFL stuff, and then Blake's going to give kind of an intro into who he is. And he does a podcast of his own called the 405 Podcast. So he'll speak a little bit into that and just his thoughts on everything going on. So just based on fantasy football, for me that's something that I really didn't get into until I don't know, I always heard about it, but I didn't really get into it until college. Um,
Right.
high, high school, I really didn't do it, but then college, it kind of took off. So, and I'm the type of guy that I over commit. So
Mm-hmm.
I was in like seven leagues this year.
Yep.
It's hard. It's hard to keep track of it. Like it's hard to
It
keep.
is. It is.
You know, are you putting the right players in? Are is this player off or on a bye? Is this player injured? And
Yep.
whatnot. So, question for you, because obviously you've done probably a little bit more fantasy football, dive into it a little bit deeper maybe than I do. Blake put together a league this year and last year for us on the Sleeper app, which has been pretty good and pretty cool. But what's your process when you go into a fantasy football draft? Like, what do you look at?
Um, I don't really look for anything specific. I just try to. I've joined ones in the past where it's just random leagues with people I don't know, and I just get so bored at that point because it's not as fun. Like you can't really trash talk people you don't really know,
Right?
and so it's just one of those things where I think I've created like six or seven each year, and it's just like you said, it's just so hard to keep track of. But I really just try to get a lot of friends that I know actually know football, just because if you get those people who like, oh, I'll join, but I don't really know much about football. I mean, it's fun, but I kind of like it to be super competitive all the time,
Yeah,
especially with like the players and stuff. Um, I wouldn't really say the process, but I would just say it's just finding people who I know are actually going to be involved, and not just have people sitting on the bench every single week that should be playing and stuff like that. It just makes it more fun getting people that are active. Stuff like that's just kind of the main thing you really look for.
yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I think that for me, I try to take your best player available typically. At
Yeah.
the, and I, I used to think I need to get a really good quarterback. Um, but It's
Yeah,
kind of
it's
off lately. I mean, I
yeah,
have
it's
a
there's so
little
many
bit.
good quarterbacks now that it's like
Yeah,
you can just wait to get a decent quarterback till like the very late into the round. So it's like you stack wide receivers and running backs and just get like an average quarterback, and I feel like you're solid.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Who would you say has been your top fantasy performer you've ever had?
Man, it's funny I do a lot of like research on like breakout plays like the week or so before, and it's funny because the year before like Lamar went off and won MVP, I drafted him like super late, and he was like one of my last few picks, and he ended up like winning the league for me. Lamar did, and then I think it was whichever year Patrick was like supposed to start when Alex Smith was kind of like going off away, and Patrick was going to start that year. I was like, oh, I'm going to snag him up just in case. And so I feel like I've been really lucky with like getting QBs who are going to just show out the next year,
Yeah,
and especially those two. I mean, they've won me the league. Shoot, I don't know. Every single year, I try to take at least one of those two, but those are two picks that I've just like picked up at the very end, right before they kind of pop off, and it's just kind of went on from there. And so I try to find like hidden gems every single year before they about to pop off.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've fallen into, and obviously I live in Indiana. A lot of my
Hmm.
friends are, from Indiana, Northern Indiana, Ohio. Some from Illinois. I went to college in Northern Indiana, so that's kind of where my friend group from college is from. But I
Right.
I get into I trust OU boys, and hey,
Yep. Yeah.
look,
It's true.
when you are at a blue blood school, you kind of have that luxury because you have a
Yeah.
decent amount of players in the NFL. Like if I'm an Alabama fan, am I looking to get Jerry Judy? Am I looking to get like um,
Hmm.
obviously Henry Ruggs is not going to be a factor anymore, but at the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
were we
Yeah.
looking to get him? Were we looking to get Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith? Like you've seen these dudes perform year in year out,
Right.
and you know that nuances that a lot of general fans don't. So like
Right.
CeeDee Lamb, a lot of fans were all in on him, but like
Yeah.
some fans are like, I don't know if he's gonna pan out, and you're like, oh no, he's gonna pan out.
And
Like
it was like this year he didn't really have like an amazing like rookie season, but he was like top 10 on wide receivers taken, just
yes,
like just based out of he's gonna pop off this year, and he didn't really have like a ton of production his first season. But I mean, the writing was just on the wall with him. Like you knew that he was just going to be so good, and he just got taken so early in so many drafts. It was crazy because you would try to snag him late, but then you know that like you got to grab him now, or else somebody else is going to take him.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and look, and I like for example, one thing I did earlier this year is I took Ramondre Stevenson in like the 10th
Right?
round, and they were like, Ramondre Stevenson, like he's not gonna even touch the field, and I was like, okay, it's
Yeah,
okay,
we'll see.
we'll see. Let's just
And it
wait.
looked better when Sony Michelle got traded because you're like,
Mhm,
okay, now he's moving up.
mhm. And I try not to be irrational with it. Like, yeah, I'll take some Sooners, but like if they're not performing, I'm not gonna start them. I'm not gonna lie to
Right.
you. 2 years ago, I took Baker because I felt like Baker was about to
Mm,
pop off in that 2019 season, and
right.
ended up not being true. So it is what it is. But that's what you do when you're a fan. You're like again,
Yeah.
you kind of see what this player has done, and you can be biased, but if you're at least reasonable enough to see, okay, they can actually have some success if they're in the right situation, then yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us Oklahoma fans probably wish that Creed Humphrey could give you
Oh
stats
yeah.
in
Oh yeah.
fantasy football
Oh
because
yeah.
I mean, the way he's performed this year has been incredible. So
And it's crazy because if you were to draft like an all Oklahoma fantasy football team, like you'd have a really solid fantasy football team still at every single
Kyler,
position.
Kyler at QB, who'd
You
you
got
put up? Andre,
Joe,
I mean,
probably Joe.
Joe Mixon, duh.
Yeah,
Mix. You got CD wide receiver. You could put Hollywood wide receiver.
yeah,
And then you got Mark Andrews at tight end.
Oh yeah, top two tight end.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean that's a squad right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there. I mean, and that's the thing too. Is like sometimes you just naturally go with that, and we're blessed to have the skill position players that we've had over the years to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, we also have to say if we want to win our league, we can't just look with
Yeah,
other
you gotta
glasses.
put bias aside at some point and be realistic and be like,
Yeah,
okay, I love my team, but I'm not
yeah,
gonna draft Marquise Brown over Cooper Cup. That's not gonna happen.
yeah. This is not. This
Yeah.
is it can't happen.
Yeah, it can't happen or else you're losing.
Yeah, you can't make that happen. So let's get a little bit deeper into like the NFL, just real what's going on, what's gone on this year. We'll talk about playoff games today a little bit. The snooze fest for the most part that's been yesterday and today, besides the Raiders and Bengals and the 49ers and Cowboys, even though that looked like it was going to be one until the very
Oh yeah.
end. What did you at the beginning of the NFL season, Blake? Who would you have pegged? Like, be honest and be honest.
Okay.
Who
Okay.
would you have pegged as your Super Bowl picks from each conference? Like, do you remember who?
Um, I think I had like Buccaneers, and I think it was Bills or Chiefs, one of the two. I think it was probably Chiefs. I mean, that's the two easy picks, but I mean, they were the two teams who just were rolling, and so that's kind of who I, you know, was just going with just to
Yeah,
be safe.
yeah, yeah. I think my NFC pick was probably the Packers. Um, and that was even without Aaron Rodgers. Not that
Yeah.
no, not saying that he wasn't going to be there. I knew he was going to be there, but just
Right.
even with the uncertainty of is everything okay with him in the front office?
Yeah. Coming to Denver. Yeah.
But if he came back, they had enough talent. And then the AFC, I chose the Chiefs, just like
Hmm.
I'm sure everybody else did. But the AFC was a hodgepodge of mess this
Oh
year.
yeah.
It was, I mean, I mean, mediocre, you could say, I guess, but I don't know. I don't even know if I want to say mediocre. Maybe I'd say injury plagued, um,
Yeah.
COVID plagued. I mean, especially you look at the AFC North. I mean, the Steelers are old, but they dealt with some injuries. The Ravens and Browns were decimated at times by
Hmm.
injuries and COVID as well. I mean, the Titans somehow got the first seed with Derrick Henry being out, but
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
that's a big injury bucket as well. My freaking Colts. I don't even want to talk about them.
Man, I feel so bad for you guys. You just had to beat the Jaguars and you were in, and then Carson, man, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Sorry to
I
hear that.
no, I tried to give the man a chance. I really did. Like, and I went to the Raiders game in
Hmm.
Indy the week before, and could clinch there. I saw him miss a wide open T.Y. Hilton on a wheel route. Like, I was in the end zone. Yeah, they were going this way. I was in this end zone, and like I told my wife because she's at home. She's on bed rest right now, carrying our child, and so unfortunately she couldn't go. I had to go with a
Hmm.
friend. But I told her, I said, she was like, "How is he? He was wide open." And I said, You watch the TV?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "The broadcast probably didn't even show how wide open he was."
Right,
I was like, "There was nobody within 20 yards,"
right.
and I was like, "He missed. Like, what is going on?"
I saw
And
something that said that like average QBR was like 50 to 70 or whatever, and like amazing was like 70 to 80. I think he had like a 4 or 5 QBR after the Jaguars game, which is it's just crazy to think that something like that could happen. But I mean, I guess they
yeah,
didn't want to be there.
it just doesn't make sense because like even if you follow the Hard Knocks, like all year they preached this, they preached that, and I believe it. Like, and Frank Reich's, I don't think Frank Reich's the problem. I
Right.
genuinely don't. I don't. I think he's a really good coach. I don't. Could you talk about some of his play calls? I guess sure, but then again, is it him? Is it Carson? I don't know. I would venture to say Carson. I understand people said that they felt like they should have gave Jonathan Taylor the ball more time, but our offensive line wasn't getting any push. We weren't
Right.
able to run the ball. So what are you gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same argument, which we're gonna kind of slide into here in a little bit, that I told Browns fans about Baker Mayfield. Like they wanted to pin all of it on him, and I'm like, your offensive line wasn't half of what it was last year,
Yeah.
and that's because of injuries, really, and that's okay to say. But you guys couldn't run the ball hardly the last 8 weeks, besides the 1 week where they ran for 200 yards at Green Bay. Other than that, they really haven't been running the ball well. And so,
No.
if you're gonna sit here and like expect, and that's the thing, if you're gonna expect Baker to be like top 8 to top 5 quarterback and overcome that, then like that's not him right now. And I'm fine saying that. It's just the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Right.
but they're acting like he's below average. And first of all, he's injured, right? We talked about that. We've said that. But
Yeah.
they're acting like he's below average, and even at his best, he's below average, which is just not true. And they're
Right.
talking about trading for Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr, and I'm like, they're not making that situation any better.
Yeah. I don't think that's much of an upgrade
No,
because you
and
saw what the
especially
Vikings
not in
did with
that
Kirk
situation.
Cousins. I mean,
Yeah, and especially not in that situation. Like if you put them in the same exact situation, your tackles are injured all year. One of the two best running backs, or one of the best running back duo in the league, is hurt half the season. Nick was
right.
also 3 weeks. Like your wide receiver core is not great. Jarvis was
That's
hurt
about it. Yeah. And
and
that's
is
about it too.
older. That's about it. Donovan Peoples Jones, like he's hit or miss. Schwartz
Yeah.
was out, like so. What are you expecting? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it was just. I think for me, it was just the unrealistic expectations that were coming out of Cleveland, Ohio, from some of their fans.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it's like, look at Kirk Cousins. They didn't make the playoffs, and they had players like Dalvin Cook, and they had players like Justin Jefferson. Like, you think he's going to be any better with the Browns with less talent? There's no way. Like,
Correct.
there's just no way. I don't think.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Let's talk about some of these games that we saw. So first we had the Raiders and the Bengals. What was your idea about that game? Or not idea, that's the wrong word. What do you think about that game? That's what I'll say.
Man, I thought coming in the Bengals were going to be like a team that could upset somebody in the playoffs. Like coming in, just that offense is crazy stacked if you think about it. You got Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. You got Joe Mixon, and then Joe Burrow's nice too.
He is good.
And so that team can really upset some people. I feel like they can make a run, and they're super young too.
Yeah.
Um, that team's really fun to watch. I mean, I root for Baker and the Browns in that division, but I
For
mean,
sure.
it's hard not to root for the Bengals just because that offense is just so much fun to watch. But they look good. I mean, they were a little stagnant in the second half.
Yeah.
They didn't really score very much, but I mean, still, I mean, first playoff game that Joe Burrow's been in. This is his, what, second year, right?
Yeah.
This is his second year, and he's already had a playoff win in Cincinnati, which is huge. I mean,
First time in plus
Marvin
years.
Lewis. It took forever for him to do it, and he was there for shoot, I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Um, and you gotta show some respect to Zach Taylor, Oklahoma
Yeah.
boy representing, But that team's nice. I'm really curious to see how they do in these next coming games. I think they can do something, um, but I guess we'll see. But that team's really fun to watch for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, man. And what's funny, I think I haven't heard it as much. Maybe they do talk about it on the Bengals broadcast, but you would think it'd be a crazy story of Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine being RB1 and RB2,
Right.
um, in the same backfield again, because they shared a backfield the majority of their college career too.
Hmm.
And so I think it's funny that story hasn't been talked about more. Maybe I need to
Right.
just look it up in the Cincinnati papers, or maybe somebody has written about it. But that's a crazy story in itself, because back in Oklahoma days, I mean, I feel like it was more 1A 1B than like
Yeah.
it was RB1 and Joe Mixon was RB2. But I do feel like Samaje got a good chunk of carries, enough
Hmm.
that he's the all-time leading rusher in Oklahoma history. But Joe I think we all felt like Joe was obviously the more talented,
Right.
had more upside.
He's more of like an NFL running back to where
Yeah,
like catch the ball, run the ball, like he can do everything.
yeah, correct. And then we had the blowout that was the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, and they just went up to Buffalo and got shellacked. I mean, that,
Yeah.
wow,
That
that
team's just been so inconsistent.
yeah,
Like, I mean, they play really well some games, and they're just they lay an egg some games too. It's just so hard. Um, I mean, when they played the Cowboys, I mean that game was super exciting. It was back and forth,
yeah,
and I think I think if it was in New England, it'd be a little closer. But I think that's a lot for Mac Jones to do. Like his first year going to Buffalo and playing against Josh Allen, that's tough.
yeah.
That's tough.
And the defense was missing a couple key pieces too,
Yeah.
so that's part of it. But I mean, I don't know if I say it's a 38-point loss part of it. That's just, I mean, it
Right.
just
Oh yeah, for sure.
so. Then you had the Philadelphia Eagles and Buccaneers blowout this afternoon, first game of the day, which I kind of expected, to be honest with you. I didn't
Yeah.
expect the Eagles to go in there and do anything special.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, Jalen made some plays, but he also, made some dumb plays.
Yeah,
Now he missed some receivers and he missed some I feel like he missed some plays where they could have had more points and made it closer.
yeah,
But I mean, you still gotta give it to him. That dude can still ball. And that team I feel like that team, a lot of people are saying he's their quarterback, and I agree. I mean,
yeah. He took them to the playoffs. I mean,
yeah,
he
yeah,
did. Carson Wentz had the same team and didn't beat
exactly.
them. So like, I mean, yeah, you at least move forward with him for the next couple years.
Yeah. And that coach was getting a lot of slack too. Like when he got hired, man, it was getting trolled so bad. They're like, "This is a horrible hire. What are you doing?" And now, I mean, look at him. I mean, he brought him into the playoffs his first year,
Yeah,
and I feel like that's saying something.
yeah, yeah. I 100% agree. 100% agree. And then after that, we had the the 49ers and the Cowboys that played. And that one, man, if you're a Cowboys
That
fan,
was crazy.
you're hurting. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
they showed they showed a lady who was bawling her eyes out.
yeah.
It
It was like 2 minutes left.
was like 3 minutes left. Like the game
Yeah,
wasn't over yet, but she was like,
yeah,
and I was like, yo, like chill out. Like it's not that deep.
for real. Yeah, it. I don't know. I like to troll Dallas fans just because some of them are just so obnoxious, and it's just funny to mess with Cowboys fans. But I genuinely did like start rooting for them a little bit when they were coming back, just because I wanted to see a good game.
Yeah.
And when Jimmy threw that pick, I was like, dude, this kid. I was like, they're gonna win. But it's tough. That 49ers team's pretty nice because they're one of
No,
those teams that's like they're a player. Like they know how to play. And Debo Samuel's just insane. He's so good.
so good,
Like
bro.
they have him in like the backfield running the ball. They got him catching the ball. I mean, I've seen times where they've had him throw the ball. Um, that's one of those teams that can go far just because they're
Yeah,
really good at running the ball and playing
yeah.
good defense.
And
Um,
Kyle Shanahan knows how to
yeah,
use his weapons.
exactly. That's an exciting offense. That's an exciting offense. And I mean, Jimmy G, he didn't lose the game, and that's kind of what was going to happen if he didn't turn the ball over too many times. I feel like they were going to win, and there were a lot of people saying that they were going to win too, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
But I saw a lot of people, you know, asking people like, who do you want to win? And there was a lot of people saying, oh, 49ers are going to win, and they thought that they were just going to go into Jerry World, and they did.
yeah. They did. They really did. And now they're gonna. I'm not sure who they're gonna play next. Maybe
I
it's the
think I think they play Green Bay if I'm not mistaken.
ouch.
Yeah, I think they have to go to Green Bay.
It's a dome to the frozen tundra of
They, yeah, I mean they beat Green Bay last time they played, but that was in San Francisco, so I think it'd be a little different story.
just a whole different story going up to Green Bay. Whole different
Yeah,
story.
I don't think that'll be a close game in my opinion, but
Yes. Greg, Forbes wanted to point out that there are 4 Sooners currently playing right now, which is true, which is the nightcap game, Steelers and Chiefs. You got Creed Humphrey starting for center on the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
You have Orlando Brown at left tackle. Um, Also for the Chiefs, you got Blake Bell, who's a
Yep.
tight end, and then you also have Trey
Trey,
Norwood
right? Yeah.
on the Steelers secondary, who's starting in the Steelers secondary. So pretty cool. And there's actually 5 Sooners. You got James Winchester, that
Oh,
is
that's right. Yeah.
long snapper for the
Yeah.
Chiefs. So there's 4 Sooners on the Chiefs, and then
That's
one
crazy.
on it's pretty fun. It's cool to see how many Sooners are on specific teams too. Like the Chiefs have multiple, the Ravens have multiple.
Yeah, that AFC North's just littered with Sooner
Littered with
talent,
it.
man.
Yep, littered with it, which is cool.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
it is cool.
I like it. Mark Andrews on the Ravens, Marquise Brown on the Ravens as well. So pretty cool stuff for sure. And we'll see. I mean, last thing I checked, it was 28-7 Chiefs.
It's
So
42-21 now. So
yeah, I mean
yeah.
it's pretty much over.
Yeah,
Ben
it is.
right
Sorry,
off.
Ben, but
It
it's kind
doesn't.
of sad. This is Ben's last game. He's kind of getting blown out. But I mean, he kind of asked for it. So
That man.
I mean, he said it. He said, we don't have a chance of winning and stuff like that, which was funny. But
They don't. They didn't.
yeah, they don't. They do
That
not.
man can't move. He's a statue. And it's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is what it is. It'll be interesting to see what the Steelers do at QB. I mean, I'm cool if they trade for Baker. That's not going to happen because the Browns' front office is not incompetent anymore like they
Right.
have in the
Yeah.
past. Which is it's crazy to me that the fans, they want to move on from what they've been, but they keep clamoring to be what they've been
Yeah.
to just get rid of Baker without understanding circumstances
Yeah.
start.
And it's I feel like it's also, it's good for Baker too, because you have so many fans coming at you. But when you have like the front office, like we have
Back.
your back, like that, like that's good.
Yeah.
Like the front office it's really always good to have your back. So I feel like that's really huge for that.
And it's clear that they do. Like people can say, "Oh, this is just GM speak." And I'm like, did you hear Chris Ballard come out and not back up Carson Wentz at all?
Yeah. Yeah, he
Like,
did not.
so, nah, they definitely backed him up. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Hey guys, we're entering into the last section of our time here. I'm gonna give Blake the floor just to kind of talk about a little bit about him, a little bit about his background, kind of how maybe he became an OU fan. Obviously, we see he's a big Denver Broncos fan, so you can dive into a little bit of that. Then he also does a podcast called the 405 Podcast. You can follow him on Twitter on that as well as at 405 Podcast, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Blake. You can follow him on there. Good stuff that he can look at. So, real quick before we move on to that, I want you to this guy's always talking to me on Twitter. He's not a bad dude, but he does not like Baker. So I feel like he's in the irrational Baker camp on this
Right.
side, not liking him. He feels like I'm in the irrationally biased Baker camp on the side of being an Oklahoma fan. I don't think that Baker's not the guy. I also agree that there's no good options at quarterback because you're not getting a free agent to come there, and you're not getting there's no good quarterbacks in this draft, like he said.
Right.
He's also a Bengals fan, which is why he said he didn't like him.
Mm,
It makes sense because you're 0-5
yeah.
against him. So,
Right. Right.
But do you think Baker's the guy in Cleveland? And try to give your an honest take if you can.
That's so tough because I love Baker to death. I really don't know the answer to that question just because there's been a lot of like coaching changes his like first couple of years in the league, so it's like he
Yeah.
hasn't really had stability. And I feel like Kevin Stefanski's a really good coach, and so I feel like give him a couple of years under that, I feel like that team's gonna be really good. But he gets a lot of slack for the Hugh Jackson stuff, the Freddie Kitchen stuff. He went through so many different head coaches his first couple of years. It's so hard to get used to an offensive system when it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has the weapons, but I mean, you had OBJ, who ever since he came to Cleveland, he has almost been non-existent. So it's like,
Yeah.
and I mean, the defense was supposed to be really good this year, and they were not good at all. Um, and so a lot of he's the franchise guy. I mean, he has all the commercials. He's just the guy that everybody rides on. And I mean, luckily they have a quarterback that can take a lot of the criticism like him. Like he just doesn't really care about it, which is good. Um, I mean, he's just like one of those dudes, and I don't know. I think he is, but I want to see him in the system a couple more years because I feel like him staying in the same offensive system for multiple years is really gonna,
Yeah.
really gonna help him out a lot because he hasn't really had that. And so it's so hard to. I feel like I've never played quarterback, but I feel like it's just so hard to constantly have a different offense that you're never used to. And then
Yeah.
you have to like learn it super quick, and then it takes forever for that offense to click just because you have so many different players learning it with you as well, and it's
Yeah.
like it takes a while for that offensive scheme to click. And I think he is that. I'll say that for now. I think he is, but I think we'll see for sure this next year or
Season.
two
Yeah.
because then he's really implemented in that offense.
Yeah.
And I really think they need to surround him with some pieces because they got him OBJ, like I said, but he's been non-existent. You have Jarvis Landry, who's good, but I mean he's a little older, and you have an amazing running back group, but I mean
They
it's
got some,
really bad. Yeah, you every single like really really good offense has a franchise wide receiver. Like look at the Chiefs, the Bucks, um, look at the Packers. I mean they're Super Bowl winning teams, and they have like a top five, top 10 wide receiver,
yeah.
and that's something that you need. You need a guy that you can constantly go to, and he hasn't had that since he's been there. And
Yeah.
so I feel like if you get him one of those guys, I think that's going to change a lot. Um, but it really just depends on the weapons that you give them because it's it's nice to have good running backs, but it really means nothing when you have great running backs and then you have no good tight ends or no wide receivers to throw the ball to. So
Yeah. And I think their tight ends are up and down. I mean, Hooper's a good name, but he drops the ball a lot. And
yep,
Joku, I think, is more talented than Hooper, but it just seems like he only has a certain amount of times where he's even available. Harrison Bryant's really good, but he was hurt most of the year. And I think
right,
that's just what it was. I think it was one of those years, and you can't just chalk it up to Baker's terrible and it's all his fault. Was Baker bad this year? I've been on the record saying, yeah, like he was injured and that was a big part of it, but it wasn't necessarily the only part. Like he regressed in
right.
some areas, but I think the injury had a lot to do with that, and also the offensive line and her, also the COVID, not being able to practice all the time. Like
Hmm.
the whole thing, right? Like the defense, as my friend Buckeye Production said, they were league average. Well, they weren't. They weren't. Spent all that money on them for them to be league average. They're
Right,
supposed to
right.
five defense, which is my problem. Is like everybody wanted to talk about, well, the defense was this, the defense was that, and really it was around Friends' top 10 defense was not bad, but when you watch the games, there were just as many games as people want to blame on Baker and say he didn't bring them and wasn't clutch in those moments. There were just as many games as the defense had the opportunity to stop an offense at the end and didn't do it.
Chargers game, good
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
Chargers game, great example. That was
Hmm.
not his fault.
No,
Defense can do anything.
no. And there were a couple of instances of that. I mean, even and I get that everyone did the COVID thing, but if you look at the Raiders game, he wasn't even playing that game.
Yep.
Defense had prime opportunity. The defense was healthier than the offense was. And they
Hmm.
had a prime opportunity to stop the Raiders and get that win and be first in the AFC North. Did that happen?
Right.
No. But so again, Baker's just the scapegoat right now. And
Yeah.
the nice thing is Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are not Cleveland fans. Cleveland
Right.
fans are rational. If they were running it, then Cleveland would be just as dysfunctional as they've ever been.
They
But
still have Johnny Manziel if that was the case.
right. I think
Yeah.
they have the right guys in that front office who are being reasonable and are doing their due diligence to recognize Baker's owed one more year, especially because of injury, but also we just saw him take them to the playoffs last year and saw him be, by every metric, a top 10 quarterback,
Right.
albeit like fringe top 10, like 9, 10, 11. But it's still, I mean, again, they're still basically essentially top 10 at quarterback in every metric. The
And he
last,
won him a playoff game.
yeah, he won a playoff game, which, that hasn't happened since '94. So, like,
Right.
you can't just discount that and be like, oh, now he's trash. Like, you
Yeah.
have a Twitter account saying literally a year ago, Baker's the franchise guy, and anybody who says he's not is an idiot. A year later, they're saying Baker's not the guy. We need to move off of him. Make it make sense. And it
Yeah.
like if he was completely healthy and he had the type of season he did, then maybe I'd entertain that conversation. But that's not the truth.
Right.
So it's like you have to give him a healthy year, and if he performs the same way, yeah, like look, it's a business. I'm fair. If he performs like that, nah, get it. Like it just is what it is. He didn't take advantage of his opportunity. But
Right.
if he doesn't, then it's like okay, we can look at it. We can point toward the injury because other than that, the last 11 weeks of 2020 and then the first 2 weeks essentially of 2021, he was performing like a top 10 quarterback. I
Yep.
mean, even though he threw the interception in the Chiefs game, nobody's sitting there saying that he didn't ball out.
Yeah.
He, top 10, top five quarterbacks throw interceptions at the end of games at times, right? Like, and sometimes it happens. But everybody was like, man, he balled out. Week 2, they said, man, he balled out. He's completing 82% of his passes. Then he, tears his labrum. And it, kind of goes downhill from there, especially after the Cardinals game. So, like, you know what I mean? People just, especially that first 7 weeks, they were really, really trying to attack Baker when really his play was like he was like 12th or 13th, I think. Like he with
Right.
the injury, and then when he broke his shoulder in the Cardinals game, that's when it really started to taper off. And then he got the knee
Yeah.
injury, the heel injury, and so like again, I just think he's polarizing. And I didn't even sorry, I didn't even mean to spend as much time on him, but it just gets me it
Right.
gets me
Yeah.
riled up,
I'm with you
man.
on that.
It is. I do love Baker, and like he's one of my favorite players ever. And I do defend him a lot, but that's the thing. I defend him from people that are irrational. Like if you bring me a rational Baker take, like look, Baker's shown that he can do a lot of good things, but he's also shown that he can do some bad things. He's inconsistent. I think right now he plays average. I'll be like, okay, hey, I hear that. But if you come to me and say he's trash, he's a backup at best, he's yada yada yada, then I'm coming at you because that's not true.
Yeah. Like I
You know?
said, give him some weapons and we'll like give him some wide receivers, bro, and we'll see. Because he hasn't really had anybody. So
Yeah,
who's he supposed to throw the ball to?
correct, correct. Okay, now let's get to you. Go ahead, man. Tell us a little bit about you, about your story, how you became Broncos fan, Sooners fan, all that jazz. 405 podcast.
Yeah, so I was born around the Denver area. Lived there for about 10, 11 years. Parents moved here to Oklahoma when I was little, so I kind of adapted the Oklahoma mentality because I've spent most of my life here. Um, Being a Broncos fan is tough, but I was born into the Bronco lifestyle, so you kind of have to deal with it as it goes. Um, but yeah, man, I've always just loved sports. I've always just had a passion for Denver sports, and so when I moved here, it just kind of organically sprouted into my love for Oklahoma sports as well. Like I root for all of the Oklahoma teams that are relevant. The team in Norman that's relevant. The Oklahoma City Thunder. I root for everybody, especially when they're playing my Denver teams. It's hard when those two teams play, but I've just always loved sports and loved talking about sports. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I mean, I love talking about sports. Let's just put a mic in front of me and see how it goes. So
Yeah,
that's just kind of how it sprouted. I mean, I could sit down and kind of talk about anything, like I could talk about college football, I can talk about NFL,
yeah,
NBA, not really baseball because that, it's pretty boring watching 180 something games, but
yeah,
um, I've just always had a passion for talking about sports and getting into it.
yeah,
Um, and so that's just kind of how it sprouted. And so it's more just kind of like a hobby, where I kind of interact with people on Twitter, have these conversations and, it's, I see people's conversations, I see their opinions, and I share my own because, I'm a sports fan and that's what all sports fans do. But,
facts.
but I've just always loved sports, loved talking about it, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna grow podcast channel, see how it goes, just have fun with it, you know, not really have any expectations with it. Um, just enjoy talking about sports and just kind of see where it goes. And it's led me to interact with a lot of really cool people being in the sports world. It gives you a lot of, I guess, stuff to, when you're sitting at home, it takes a lot of your boring time away. You're on Twitter looking at sports stuff, you're doing research, you're watching, I've had this past couple weeks, college football being over,
Yeah,
sometimes I've been going and watching college football highlights, on YouTube, just watching games throughout the year that I didn't really watch as much as I should have. Um, and so it's just one of those things where I'm always involved in sports.
yeah,
Um, and so it's, just a huge passion of mine, just kind of a big hobby that I've always enjoyed. So,
yeah. That's awesome, man. Great to hear. Great to hear. And yeah, it's awesome to hear you. Pursuing your passions. That's what I did. It took me a little bit, but when my father passed about a year ago, me and him always talked about it, and I finally said, you know what, I'm just going to do this, in honor of
yeah,
him. So, I've been fortunate to be able to create relationships through that. Obviously, meeting Travis has been one of my biggest blessings. And,
right.
and podcasts with him it's just provided me a lot of opportunities that I wanted. And even honestly, early on, talking with you, meeting you, just being able to meet a couple of different people that are cool. Sometimes you see
Right.
the ugly side of Twitter, and you don't know who you're really messing with, and that's the scary part of the online world. But then
Yeah.
sometimes you get to meet cool and dope people, right? That I can be like, hey, let me call up the homie Blake and let's get him on the channel, like, and
Right.
to talk for 40 plus minutes about sports and be cool. It's a dope time. It's cordial. We're not over here like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just,
Yeah. Not all
there's,
like
you
suit and tied
never know.
up, being put on TV, it's just a chill
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. You just never know with people.
Yeah. Right.
So, nah, but that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, real quick before we head out, if anybody here is in the chat, if you have any questions at all for me or Blake, go ahead and drop them. It can be OU related, NFL related. It can be, for me, I don't care. I'm an open book. It can be personal related. If you have personal questions that you want to ask me, that's fine too. I'm not sure about Blake. Maybe you may want to be a little more private, but
No,
either way,
man, throw some questions at me, man. Let's speak Russell Wilson to the Broncos to existence, man. Let's
it's
speak it into existence
not
so we can
happening.
have a quarterback. Let's just all speak it into existence.
I need him to come to Indianapolis.
We're gonna have to fight over him then, man, because both of our teams are a quarterback away from being really good.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. I need him. I need him. So yeah, like I said, guys, if you got questions, please go ahead and drop in chat. I'll give you about 5 minutes. Then we'll get out of here so we can both hit the hay, get to
Oh
bed.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
Looking at these games, apparently Cincinnati at Tennessee, that's gonna be nice.
should be a good game.
That's gonna be nice.
Man,
It's gonna be a fun game.
if you're Cincinnati, you gotta love that draw. You
Oh
got
yeah. If you stop Derrick Henry, you're good. But that's a feat in itself, though.
you have to choose Wilson, Rogers, or Watson. Who you take for your QB? I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. That's not even a question.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
if we're talking like the next 2 to 3 years, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. No shot at
Right.
Shea Russell Wilson, but Aaron Rodgers is talent wise probably top three QB all time. And then if you just want to talk about obviously statistics, he's probably up there 15, 10, whatever. But he's widely regarded as one of the best quarterbacks of all time, just purely from a talent perspective. Who wouldn't want
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, on their team? Who
Shit,
can,
I'll take him for a year.
he
Like,
doesn't,
if he's
yeah,
supposed to come for a year, like,
he
come
just
here, win a Super Bowl. I don't
he
care if you leave.
doesn't turn the ball over. Like,
Yeah.
for a superstar quarterback, he's probably one of the. I think it's crazy just seeing how much he literally just doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah. I was listening to something either yesterday or today, and it was regarding like if you're a DB, you hate going up against him because you're never gonna get opportunities to pick off the ball. Like if he throws it your way and you miss, then I can guarantee you that you're probably not getting the ball thrown to you like that ever again in that game. So you're right. He just doesn't turn the ball over, and he's just so nice with the passes. It's incredible. I would I would take him in a heartbeat, even if he came 1 year and left. Come win us a Super Bowl, and you can do whatever you want. I'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Hey guys, continue to drop questions in the chat so I can put them up on the screen. We can um, get out of here. Yeah, I agree here with Colson. His Rogers' ability to not turn the ball over is nuts, and especially with
Yeah,
how much he scores. Like he puts you in good positions generally high amount of the time. I mean that's what makes him so great too. Not only his accuracy, his arm strength, but the fact that he has the ability to throw like that, and he doesn't turn it over as much. Brett Favre had the same ability, but he turned it over a ton. But
yeah,
people don't want to talk about it because the last thing, if y'all can't tell, I'm a Baker apologist, so it just comes up a lot. The mainstream media narrative, they want you to believe that Baker is not a good athlete. They want you to believe that Baker has an average arm. That neither of those are true. I'm not
right,
saying Baker is Kyler Murray, but the narrative that Baker is this slow, unathletic quarterback is false. It is categorically false, and it's
right,
ridiculous that that's even a question. Like we're literally over here talking about how Stefanski's offense is a good fit for him because it does play action rollouts where he can get out of the
yep,
pocket and use his legs to throw on the run, which is one of his best traits. I'm sorry. Since when does a slow, unathletic quarterback since when are they good at rolling out of the
right,
pocket and throwing on the run?
exactly.
And then this narrative that he has an average arm, dude, he has a cannon. What are you
He
talking about?
does.
Like that's why he was compared to Brett Favre because he's
Yep,
very Brett Favre-ish in that, and people don't want to believe that, but it's the truth.
yep,
And so where he gets in trouble is like, yeah, he turns the ball over a lot. So did Brett Favre. And I'm not saying that Baker doesn't need to cut down the turnovers, but I just feel like people are out here acting like, look, I'm gonna say it. It's a hot take, but I'm gonna say it. Baker is more talented than Joe Burrow. He's more talented than Joe Burrow. Joe
okay,
Burrow is very good. Don't get me wrong. Joe Burrow mentally right now, I think, is at a higher clip than Baker is, or at least making better
right.
decisions more often. But Joe Burrow has way more weapons than Baker
Oh
does
yeah,
a receiver in the wide receiver realm, just like he did at LSU. But Baker has better arm talent than Joe. Joe does not. Joe's arm is average. His arm is like actually average. You know what I mean? So
right.
that's what I'm saying when I say talent, as far as that goes. But where Joe is different, I think, is his ability to maneuver the pocket and his ability to make the right decisions a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That's where I think the difference has been. But I'm not going to sit here and say athletically Joe Burrow is a better athlete or has a better arm than Baker because that's not true.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten put into a better situation. Because, you snag Jamar Chase, who's incredible, and that offense is already loaded. I mean, Baker hasn't had a loaded offense in a while. I mean, they spent a lot of money in the offseason, sure, like a year or so ago on talent, but I mean, has it really showed out that they're performing well? No, they haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Hey, here's a question from Colson. What's your NBA Finals predictions? From the West, I got the Warriors coming out of the West. I think the Suns could push them. I think once the Warriors get healthy, they're in a little bit of a they're in a little bit of a rut right now. Draymond's out. Steph's with the hand injury. Clay just came back. But once they get their full assortment back, Draymond, Clay, Steph, Wiseman gets back. That starting five is pretty nasty, and they got a good bench with Gary Payton II,
Hmm.
with Jordan Poole. I mean, they're back to that strength in numbers that you've seen. So I would say that's who I have coming out of the West. Out of the East, the Bucks are finally starting to get hot. They had a slow start, but they're finally starting to get hot. I would say probably them or
Hey, Bulls are looking nice, man. Don't
the
don't
Bulls.
be
The Bulls
don't
are
be hating on the
decent.
Bulls.
They're
They're
decent. I
number one seed.
don't see
They're
them as
number
a
one seed.
I know, but I don't see them as a contender as we
Okay.
get closer
Okay.
to the spring. I think they'll lose out on that. Yeah, that's what I would have to say. I don't think the 76ers are going to push them.
No.
I mean, honestly, I think the only one that can push them is the Bucks. I don't see any other teams. I mean, the Nets have Kyrie
Then
half the time, so
yeah, yeah. If they go to the NBA Finals, he's not going to be able to play his home game in the finals, so that's just inconvenient.
yeah,
But I don't know. I really like the Nets, man. KD almost beat the Bucks. He was like, what was it, like maybe an inch away from beating the Bucks in Game 7. So I don't know if I think I think the Nets. I think that they could really do something because, like I said, he was an inch away from them going, and so it's one of those things to where him, James Harden, Kyrie sometimes really
yeah,
non-existent, so it doesn't really matter. But him and James Harden are just so good that I think that they pull it out. But the Bulls are fun to watch, man. They really are. But I don't think they're there yet. I mean, they have a really good core, but I don't know. I still have to pull for the Nets and the Bucks until someone proves like someone dethrones the Bucks or beats the Nets like crazy.
yeah. I agree. I really need to look at the East standings.
I'm
I don't
looking at
think
them right now.
much. I'm really upset with my Pacers because they just
Y'all
yeah.
gotta blow it up.
I mean, yeah, the Nets are one game back. I think the Nets are probably gonna push them. The Heat are good. 76ers, but I the East is just really weak. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
It is.
The East
It's
is probably
like
as weak as it's
it's
ever been.
Bucks, Heat, Nets, Bulls, and then it's really bunch of
Yeah,
teams that aren't really doing nothing.
I mean, I would take the Suns, Warriors, Jazz, and Grizzlies over anybody in the East.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean
But
the top four teams in the West would be the number one seed in
yes,
the East.
correct.
So I mean I feel like that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it
Which is
is.
why I think this is a topic for another day. But it'd be fun to just not just like Eastern standings, Western Conference standings, just like throw in the best top 16 teams. We'll see. I
Yeah,
think it'd be more fun that way because it makes it more even because we know a lot of the time whoever comes out of the West, even though the Bucks did it, whoever comes out of the West is going to probably be the favorite.
yeah, yep. So yeah, I agree. But hey, we're gonna go ahead and close it out. Thanks for joining us. As always, guys, appreciate you being on here. Make sure to tune in this Wednesday for the JP and Trav show. The homie Blake's gonna be joining us there as well this Wednesday. Then we got another special guest coming for you guys the next Wednesday. Um, I'll give you one hint for those of you that are here. This is a current player on the roster of Oklahoma football.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
I won't say who, obviously,
Right.
but yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. We're gonna be able to get this fella on here. So again, come tune in this Wednesday. We're gonna have the homie Blake on here. It's gonna be a good time, good conversation. And then make sure you tune in 2 weeks from now. We will have Oklahoma football player on here. Blake, go ahead and drop your handles for some of the people in the chat that want to follow you guys. Follow you.
Yeah, my podcast, Area 405 podcast on Spotify and iTunes, on Twitter as well at Area 405 podcast. But my main Twitter that I use is the Blake Lugo. That's my main Twitter that I've been using. So you guys can follow me there, interact with me there, whatever you want to do.
Dope. All right, homie. Appreciate you.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for coming on.
Peace, guys.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. All right,
Yes,
Boomer.
sir. Boomer.